At this point, with all the bays updated with stone and lighting, we decided we were going to make the right bay and to a certain extent the back bay a bit more useful. So the area that was walled off with a concrete wall, what I did was I put in about 4 to 6 inches of crushed stone right on top of the bedrock. Then I put, as you can see here, heavy-duty plastic so that any water that came in would stay in the crushed stone and go down to the drain pipe, and on top of the plastic should remain dry. Then I went to the local Amish sawmill and I got some rough cut lumber. So I've got on the right side, I've got the sill, and on the left side you can see I got the sill. The original wall had rebar in it. So I drilled holes in the sill where the rebar went and then just pounded the boards down and call it good. Then I started putting up some 2 by 10 by 16 foot floor joists. There's the first one, and I got a little bit farther. There's another view of it. It didn't take very long, and I had all the floor joists down, and I used the pass load framing nailer to nail them into position. And then to hold them so that they wouldn't wobble, I laid some planks down so I could walk across it and put in those little spacers, which tightened up the floor. Then I got some tongue and groove underlayment. It's waterproof. I don't remember the exact name of it, but I started putting it down. You can see that I started with a brand new sheet that was red. Well, I didn't care. It's just a barn and it's a deck floor. It can be red, it can be any color. Doesn't matter to me, long as it works. So I just started laying them down and screwing into the joists. Right there, I've got the first 4 sheets done. And right here, I'm setting up a laser because I know the barn is not square. Or it might have been back in 1860, but it sure isn't now. And right here you can see just how far the barn is out of square, so I had to cut the underlayment so that the tongue and groove would align. And about this time I got tired of dragging stuff under that original timber. So I cut the timber away and I was putting in a 4-foot walkway. You can see how I did it. I just used a chainsaw and just made a kind of like a tongue and groove. So you're going to see how I cut the timbers. I don't know whether I'm doing it the correct way or not, but this is the way I've always done it. I just use a chainsaw. This is an 18-volt Ryobi chainsaw. And that's basically the way I do it. Now the way I cut the slot, now that I've got the 2 cuts done, I got to get that centerpiece out because this has to slide in. So again, the way I've been doing it is I go down in like this and cut. And because it's a narrow blade, it does a pretty good job. It's a little rough, but it's the way I'm doing it. Trim that little piece off. There you go. That's pretty good. I just gotta trim that top off and it'll look like the other one. There's the top trimmed so that it matches the profile. All it's left to do is take the pass load nailer and nail the bottom in I'm putting the doorway because I don't want somebody to drive a vehicle out there. It's not designed for vehicles. Now the last thing to do is to secure this to the beam. And the easiest way is with a pass load framer, 3 1/4 inch glued nails. There. That is not going anywhere. In the middle of making the last cut to fit the last piece of flooring. Then of course that's got to be cut. There we go. That should drop in. Should is the operative word. So I'm down to the last piece, and when I cut it you'll see how crooked the old barn is. The old barn is 1856 to 1860, somewhere in there. That's as close as I can go to that beam. I will get out the saber saw and cut the rest of it. So the last thing to do for the deck is to cut this beam off because it's too long. Because down there I had to go around a timber, so that's why it's sticking out. And that was the thickness of the timber. So there's the basic deck. It's done. I've got to finish it with the boiled linseed oil. I've got to come up with a railing. Probably I'm going to do like I did up there. I'll get a cut of timber and put it across. So you may be wondering why I built the deck. Well, this barn has 4 levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Up there is level 4. And this area was not being used. So the easiest thing to do was to put a deck, because we weren't using on the first layer or first level the area at all. So cement wall and some Amish timber, and we've got it. Have I ever built a deck? No, it's probably obvious. I watched YouTube videos, and it is a barn, and you're not going to fall through it. It's not a thing of beauty, but it's functional. So not having built a deck, what does it take to build a deck? Well, little Ryorby battery, big Ryorby battery, a 4 amp, 2 amp and 4 amp, and Ryorby skill saw, the 5.5 or 5 1/4. You got the impact, you got the jigsaw, you got the chainsaw, Ryorby laser, pass load battery, fuel, and the pass load framer. Then you got to have chalk line, square, pencil. That's a 16-foot tape measure. Pry bar. Of course, you got to have the deck screws. a persuader, and a pair of gloves. And that is all I used to build the deck. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to fall down. Unless the building does. But it's been up since, 1860, give or take. So I think I did okay. And there is the finished railing. Cut that into the floor. Then we cut some flats for that and over there. Here I just toe-nailed it into the wall. The bottom of it is 35 inches, so that'll probably be good enough. Last thing to do, I got my roller, my tray, my boiled linseed oil. I've just got to roll that out on the floor and let it dry. And that will finish extending the second level of the barn. So like I said earlier, I'm going to try that Amish trick of putting down boiled linseed oil on the floor. Never tried it before, but see how it goes. It was on nice and wet. I just hope 1 gallon's enough. Because I'm sure this floor is going to really suck it up. And if I don't have enough, I will go get more. I'm not even sure how long it takes to dry. This is unheated, and this time of the year we're getting 40s with maybe 70s during the day. So that pretty much takes care of one of the sheets. So I just got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I got 7 more. So after 5 minutes work, there's half of it. And I've used pretty close to half the jug. So I'm thinking you're only going to get 8 sheets of this underlayment with a gallon of the oil. Okay, there's the entire floor done, and I'm pretty sure that if I'd have had 8 full sheets, I'd have just barely made it because I got about a pint left. Oh, and I guess I've got to add one more Ryorby tool that I used to build this deck. Right there. That's my Ryorby light. It is very powerful, and it'll run on the big 4-amp battery for a couple hours, maybe just a touch less. But anyway, when it gets dark, that's what I use. So we'll see how long it takes to dry. Well, it took 2.5 days for the boiled linseed oil to dry. It is not sticky, so we're good to go. Looks pretty good. Well, there is a couple little spots right there that looks like I was a little bit light. I may have to touch that up. Once I got the deck completed, I realized that it was just a pain going all the way over to the left bay to go up the steps to get into the mezzanine. So I decided to build a set of steps that went from the deck I just built up to the mezzanine. So there was a couple people that I knew that were a lot better at doing cutting stringers than myself. because I'm no carpenter. So I asked them if they would give me a hand, and as you can see, they quickly put the thing together, and we lifted it up, mounted it in place, and screwed it in. Then we had steps up to the mezzanine. I have moved the stairs that were over about here on the other side of the wall, got them in place, and then we've got the stairs right there going up to the mezzanine. So there's the stairs going up to the mezzanine, and I've got to clear that out, work on it. But so far, I've pretty much got what I intended to do. Now the third level of the barn that I call the mezzanine, it used to extend the full width of the barn, and that was where the hay was. But for some reason, they took half of it down. In fact, a little more than half. And as you can see, I put a post into one of the original mortises, because if you notice, there's a long span where there was no support. And when the mezzanine was there, a little short post going from the mezzanine up to that support beam for the roof, that held the roof up. So what we did was when we cut the beam, we cut it 1.5 inches longer and inserted it into the original slot, and then just toe-nailed it to the deck. And that particular part of the deck happened to be right over one of the floor joists, so it's got good support there.